All right, joining me now is geopolitical advisor Rena Shah, former GOP congressional aide. Rena, thank you for joining us this morning. What are you expecting from Trump at CPAC or TPAC?
Well, I see this CPAC as not just a victory lap, but a victory lap with edge. So there's no doubt that Trump is going to take that triumphant tone in whatever he says. But what he's really seeking to do is to stick it to all those who believed he couldn't. And how he does that is by leaning into this rhetoric that was, he thinks, very successful on the campaign trail. And by all accounts, it really was. There was a lot of populist red meat on the campaign trail, red hot rhetoric on border security, America first economics, and dismantling the woke left. That's a big one. But what I think Trump will do is double down on promises to shrink the government. You know, Elon Musk's influence obviously is looming large. Those chainsaw vibes are really translated to what we are seeing and hearing every day right here in Washington, D.C. But one thing I want our audience to also know, and they probably already know this, is that there's always a surprise factor with Trump. Don't rule out a curveball here. And I think one of those is probably going to be a hint at challenging the 22nd Amendment for a third term. He's going to take provocative jabs at people like McConnell, who have been Republican holdouts. But one thing is for sure here, Trump thrives on keeping the crowd buzzing.
And he'll certainly try to do that. We know that's kind of his MO.
Yes.
We're actually looking at some live footage right now of hostages from Israel being released, being sent back to their home country. Just curious, as we're looking at this, if you can give us your reaction to what we've seen played out with the ceasefire and now more hostages being released live right now as we're showing on screen.
This past week in Washington has taught many of us insiders a lot. And I don't think insiders a bad thing because, look, I've been privy to a lot of conversations that top Republicans have had with this administration during the transition period. There was a sense that there's going to be action, and I think we've finally seen it this week. In Trump talking kind of out of both sides of his mouth, which is what a lot of critics are saying is bad, I don't think it's a particularly bad thing. When I say that, I'm saying he's talking about critical minerals in Kyiv, Ukraine, while also talking about creating this ceasefire that very much has needed to happen between Russia and Ukraine. So what we're seeing here is this administration focused on action. They need a win here with Ukraine and because it has been the feature of how they can really continue to bang on Biden and Blinken. But CPAC did this one thing, Alicia, that really has stuck out to me. It's no longer the Cheney-Romney party. There's a nationalist populist vibe that is not just alive and well. It is characterizing the conservative movement right now. Having people like Javier Milei of Argentina and Liz Truss of the UK, that tells you that there are global echoes here.
You mentioned a moment ago Trump and Ukraine. There's a lot of delicate balances that need to be happening right now, particularly this rift now that's happening between Trump and Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky. I want to play a soundbite for you of what was said recently and then get your thoughts on the other side of it real quick.
Sure.
Today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down.
So we touched on this earlier in the show with General Newton, but I want to get your thoughts. Ukraine and the U.S. reportedly close to signing this deal that would give U.S. mineral rights in Ukraine. What's at stake here, and what can be salvaged with this relationship? Is this deal going to be the way we salvage it?
I don't think we can look at things traditionally anymore, such as salvaging relationships with allies or figuring things out with adversaries. What I just alluded to earlier was ceasefires in two different places. What is America's responsibility here in brokering deals, whether it's between Israel and Gaza and Ukraine and Russia? We are talking about an administration that believes they have to deliver for the American people. And what the American people want is an end to our money being ported abroad abroad in such a way that does not make sense. We have people right here in our communities from coast to coast in America who are hurting today. So whatever happens abroad has to be done with great expediency. And I think Trump is actually speaking to that moment. Look, I've been a critic of his, and even I can admit that this pace, while it may scare a lot of people, it is healthy. Geopolitically, his rhetoric, Trump's rhetoric, does, always risk the ability to scare people abroad, scare other leaders of other nations, because what they're spooked by is a lack of moderation. And that's exactly what we're seeing in real time right now, a total lack of moderation from Trump.
Yeah, Rina, really appreciate your time and insight here. Geopolitical advisor and former GOP congressional aide, Rina Shah. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.